everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pivot and Prosper. I'm your host, Joe Nahay from LFG Business Group. This is a podcast where we speak with entrepreneurs, business owners, and C-suite executives in the marketing industry to hear about their stories of growth with relentless perseverance. Today, I have the joy of introducing Jon Katz from Austin, Texas. He's a fractional CMO and has been in marketing for 15 years now. He works with startup, B2B, B2C businesses with leadership and marketing role to create annual and long-term goals with creative strategy. Jon, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with me here today.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, before I press record here, we had a great kickoff conversation of introducing each other and learning more about you and, business growth and startup and above. So I'm super thrilled to ask all these questions and educate and learn more myself too about everything you got going on and what's to come. With that in mind, tell me a little bit more about your current role, what problem your fractional CMO role solves, and what you've created as the solution.
Yeah, great question. So I've been doing fractional CMO work for a few years now. Over the last 10 years, I was SVP of marketing CMO at high growth startups and realized that there was a lot of other companies that could use my help in more of a fractional or marketing advisory role. So I do both advisory and fractional CMO work. The difference, essentially, the fractional CMO work, I really do get in the weeds. I'm actually executing on things and I'm managing a lot of the team. Whereas the advisory work that I do is more of call it 1 to 2 calls a week and really just helping tackle challenges that the team faces either at the executive level or within the marketing department. And yeah, I think, where I come in is generally in that seed to, Series B area where, there's a lack of executive marketing leadership. They typically will have a head of marketing. They'll have somebody who, maybe a director, and then a few ICs, but there's really no alignment between the executive team and the marketing team. Obviously that head of marketing, their job is to align the executive team and the marketing team, but they don't necessarily have that experience of, really rolling the marketing strategy up to what the annual goals are, what the long-term goals are of the business, and then bringing more of that executive leadership to the marketing team, building out, rocks or OKRs for the marketing team and really kind of driving those home. Thinking through LTV and CAC modeling, what channels are profitable, what channels are not profitable? Are we actually making money? Is the LTV and lifetime value of the customer, is it worth us continuing to invest, right? And I think a lot of that executive level marketing is lacking at some of that head of marketing director roles, specifically between kind of seed and Series B. And that's typically where I come in and work very closely with the CEO to create that alignment.
I love it. I love it. I think key thing to add in there as well too, aligns perfectly with what you just said is what is the customer journey? What is the mapped out customer journey before they kind of go live? And then what is customer journey now as that product or service is out there? What are you dumping so much money into and the conversions aren't there? What are you not utilizing in the company and need to facilitate on that? So I think I agree with you. There's so many areas where there's lack of vision, sight, and all the acronyms and KPIs right inside to look at what those conversions look like could tremendously change the top line, bottom line revenue results of that business. So excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What would you say you've struggled with the most while operating as a fractional CMO with other businesses?
I think there's a few big challenges there's always challenges, but I'd say one big challenge is you're managing a team that is typically in-house and you are fractional. So, the holding accountable is challenging. Obviously, making sure that the team is dialed into what you're executing. You have to earn trust, right? You have to earn that respect. And I'm able to do that fairly quickly, I believe. But, not being full-time, not being, dialed into the business 24/7, like when I was at, a much larger company where I'm full-time, I'm interacting with the team, not only daily, but, every hour or two, I'm really working very closely with my team. It's a little bit different on a fractional side, but that's one thing you have to navigate. You have to build that trust, build that respect. And then, I'd say, within a kind of an executive level marketing role, there's alignment there's kind of 3 layers. There's the IC role, the marketing department, there's the executive team, and then there's the investors. And I think bridging that gap between all three as a fractional is challenging, right? I'm expected to, as a fractional, work, in many ways with the CEO to align with board meetings and make sure that they understand what is the strategy we're executing. How do I describe this and work with my investors and pass this on to my investors? So there's not just working with the marketing team and really the executive team, but then also how does that translate to the vision for, the investors?
Got it. Makes sense. Communication is key, right? When all
Absolutely.
departments aren't really talking as coherent as they should be, and then we got someone that comes in that, hey, like yourself, that truly understands it, and then we talked about this, so come together. Sometimes to ruffle some feathers, but for
Yeah.
a good cause, right?
Yeah. Well, that also brings up, when you say communication, there's also cross departmental communication too, which is always an
Hmm.
issue. So in one of my clients, I'm working very closely with the marketing team and the CEO, but so much of what I'm doing, it's a B2B business, translates over to the sales department and then also translates over to the product team. And so the cross departmental communication there, and a lot of times they'll look at, when I say they, the head of sales or the head of product, they know that there's a fractional CMO working, but they are head of their department and I need buy-in from product or from sales, or one of those departments may be falling short somewhere and I need to come in and kind of give my professional opinion on it. And that's a little bit challenging, right? Coming in and saying, hey, I think you're not structuring your sales funnel correctly, or there's some issues with the sales ops and rev ops team, and we need to, whatever those issues are, and I have to come in and now not only just work with the head of marketing or director, but now I have to tell, a head of revenue or a head of sales, hey, here's how I might approach this. And I'm not working with them on a weekly basis. I'm working with the marketing team and the CEO. So there's trust building that I need to do cross departmentally as well.
Yeah, totally get it. Especially from an outsider coming in, they've got, heck, a lot of folks at C-level have been there for what, 10, 15 years or so, and who's this guy coming in here trying to
Yeah,
tell me what to do, right? The
right.
idea is
Exactly.
we're here to help, if anything, right? I'm not here to tell
Right.
you what to do or tell you you're wrong. We're here to help and lend our opinion to help bring more revenue and opportunities and et cetera to the business.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That's excellent. What would you say are some of the key skills or bits of knowledge that are most important for success in, I guess, the marketing fractional role as a CMO in the next few years?
I think number one, you have to be thinking of it as a CEO. You have to come in with the mentality of the CEO. What does the CEO care about? They care about results, but they also right now very much care about profitability. They care about payback period. So understanding the numbers, understanding the unit economics, understanding the unit economics by channel as well as by customer segment, right? You're going to have different unit economics by different segments, I think is extremely important. And frankly, you can understand how to speak to it, but if you also can't go build it and take the data from your CRM and export it and figure out what's happening, whether it's creating reports in Salesforce, whether it's actually pulling reports in Excel and running it in Excel, doesn't matter. Yeah, sure, you could pass that along to somebody to go get, but it is extremely beneficial if you can go look at the numbers and you can figure out what's happening and go articulate that to the CEO. So I think from my perspective, CMOs need to be thinking like CEOs, and they need to truly understand the unit economics and provide recommendations based on those unit economics to CEOs and to board of directors.
I love it. We are in sync. I couldn't agree more. I think how many companies I've either worked with, worked for, et cetera, where they have Salesforce and only utilizing a very small percentage of it and providing data to the C-level individuals, CEOs, especially of what's going on in the
Yeah,
business. What does the pipelines look like, et cetera. And when that data comes, I mean,
yeah,
it's easy to put that stuff together. When it's all formulated, it's amazing what you can see are the pitfalls, successes, you name it, right? And kind of
yeah.
restructure as needed.
Yeah, and
Couldn't
it's
agree more.
really important to have clean data too. I've come into
Yes.
businesses typically in the seed and Series A range where the data just isn't very clean, and then you're working off of data that you maybe don't trust. So that's a whole other issue. And I've come in and helped companies with kind of restructuring their Salesforce architecture, just having done it and built it in multiple companies. I've been able to build architecture around Salesforce, and I think even thinking through the RevOps side, marketing should be able to do, right? I've helped build out and optimize sales funnels. And so having that kind of broad skill set as a marketer, I think is extremely important. But back to the data component, if your data is not clean, then you're pulling all data and it could be inaccurate. So making sure that you're coming in and the data that the company has is tight and trustworthy.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. It sounds like you're quite the analytical guy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, certainly more analytical. Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
so.
I'm a
Yeah.
mechanical engineer by trade, so I got into marketing because I'm an analytical person who,
Yeah.
well, also like being with the sales guys. So funny
Yeah.
how that merged.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. We could probably go after the same data and all the above.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What would you say is one piece of outdated advice that entrepreneurs should stop following immediately?
Well, I'll give one thing that I don't think is happening anymore, which is a good thing. Kind of that scale at all costs, right? Growth is everything. You want to build a sustainable business, and I'm working with one client right now where they've transitioned over the last year and a half from growing really quickly to just being an ATM machine, and that puts them in such a powerful position to really decide their fate, right? They can go raise money if they want to, but they also don't have to because they're making so much money on a monthly basis. They're cash flow positive and not just marginally, they're making good money. And so that transition from we need to grow at all costs to get a high valuation is really going away, right? I do think it'll come back. I think everything is cyclical. So at some point, money's going to be free again. And at some point, it's going to be grow at all costs type thing, and an environment of that. But at the same time, you can't go wrong being profitable. You can't go wrong having your business be an ATM machine. So if you can do that, and the sooner you can do that, typically I think that's a good approach to have.
I agree. I agree. And well said too. I think it all makes sense in how, geez, how what we're hearing as far as advice. And we talked a little bit earlier about like Shark Tank and what type of components you can take out of that
Mhm.
for opportunities to scale, and what are areas on YouTube where it's okay, stop listening to this, focus on this, etc., dive deep. Tons of great books out there to read,
Yeah.
etc., which is of great value, right? Now, before kind of going to the next question, it's kind of piggyback on that too. We talked earlier, and I want to shed light on a business that you've recently started up now, which is fantastic. You gave me a good high level of it. Let's kind of go back into that as well too. But ultimately, it's the same thing we talked about earlier of what do marketers do? Well, they help prospect, lead, consumer, whoever it is, understand the problem that they have. You have the solution to it, and just relaying that good, strong messaging behind it, right? And geez, those simple core factors of being a really good marketer you've been able to do and have a startup. So tell me a little bit more about this startup.
Yeah. So I have a problem myself, which is I've gotten migraines since I was 7 years old. It's been something that I've dealt with just pretty much my whole life. And recently came across a book. When I say recently, I keep saying recently. It was back in January of 2023. The book Heal Your Headache. It's by a neurologist who talked a lot about food and dietary modifications that you can make if you do suffer from migraines. And I read the book, started implementing and really removing some foods from my diet, and saw about a 50% reduction in my migraine frequency. So I realized right there, I was like, wow, there's a problem, there's a solution, but there's not an easy solution to this problem. I had to read labels when I was going to the grocery store. I was cooking my own meals. It was very difficult to find snacks that I could eat that didn't contain, some of the common triggers, which are nuts and chocolate and soy and gluten and dairy and artificial sweeteners. And there's actually a whole lot more. And so I saw a huge gap in the market for an opportunity to come in and create a food brand, a CPG brand, dedicated to migraine health. And so think of us, it's called EMEA. We make migraine-friendly foods, first brand making foods free of common migraine triggers. So it's kind of akin to the gluten-free or allergen-free market where you've got foods or ingredients that are inflammatory and cause reactions in people. Same exact thing for migraine. And so our first product is a baked oat and seed snack bar, just easy on the
Mm.
go. I will be in all 10 Central Market stores on June 5th, which I'm really excited about. So go check us out if you're in Texas. We're going to be in the Central Markets across the state. And then I've announced my co-founder. So Jennifer Morrison, an actress, she's been in a bunch of TV shows. She is joining as my co-founder. She's also struggled with migraines. and wanted to join because it was a problem that she had, and she found the solution to be very intriguing, and she loved the product. So excited to be announcing her as my new co-founder.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And on top of that as well too, there's getting in the CPG market is arguably one of the most difficult industries to be in and be successful in. It's either you make it or you break it quickly. A very high percentage of businesses that try and start in there. So what do you think is one of the key things that companies or businesses or founders, whoever, they have an idea, it may be a good idea, but what do you think is the biggest miss for individuals who want to grow, start a CPG business, and then it fails? What do you think is that key thing that they're missing?
There's so many things. I mean, it's a really challenging business. It's not like software. That software scales, right? And you can build your software, and then you can have a bunch of people using it, and you don't have to keep. Yeah, you have server costs, but there's a very, very small as you scale. With food, every product I sell, I have to make more products. So there's that challenge, right? You have a cost of goods sold, and that is very challenging. A lot of times in the early phases of these businesses, investors are looking for traction and proof points, right? And so you really have to go out and get angel money, but everything is expensive. It's expensive. There's minimum orders for your suppliers and the manufacturers that you work with. So you can't just go in and say, I want to make 200 bars. No, you've got a few thousand at minimum that you need to make. And so it gets expensive. And so getting traction and hitting milestones quickly and setting realistic milestones that you can show, hey, I can call my shot, I can make my shot. And if you do that consistently, you start to show a trend of that to investors. But that's difficult, right? Especially in the early phase when you are bootstrapping, you don't have a lot of money. I would expect, founders that are going to jump into CPG, you absolutely need to have money that you put in yourself, and you may have to take out a loan and fund it and self-fund it in the beginning. And then there's the whole challenge with supply chain. I mean, supply chain is naturally brutal. Finding the right partners in manufacturing, in packaging, and then when there's constant issues that arise. I mean, it happens all the time. My manufacturer just got acquired. So I literally started the business and started manufacturing October of last year of 2023. It's now, almost June, and they just got acquired. So now I'm working with a new set of management teams and, new workers in the factory that have to learn my process and my systems. I've seen multiple issues happen and arise throughout the production of 3-4 productions already, and they're all different issues. Like one issue is the flow wrap that wraps the bars was not working, and it was making cuts in the wrapper, so we had to scrap it because you can't have any holes in the wrapper, right? Another issue is like we ran out of certain ingredients and couldn't get one of our ingredients from the main supplier, so we had to use a different supplier. Then we had a bake time issue because there was humidity in the new factory and it wasn't baking the same way it baked in the cooler facility. There's always little issues, and you just have to be dynamic and flexible and make decisions, confidently and make the best decision that you can at the time.
Expect the unexpected, right? There's always going to be something.
That is it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Understood. Amazing. Lots to it, but I'm sure along that journey that puts so many other, speaking of that, it reminded me of something too, where, hey, growing a business, my first agency I grew this is difficult. This is way different than things in corporate. This is, okay, let's redefine what stress is, right? And all that. And then as more businesses grew behind that, especially what you have going on in CPG, which I think is one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult, we look at things we did in the past that we thought were stressful, like that was a piece of cake. Now this is the new layer of difficulty. If I can handle this, then everything past that, I'm going to become better and better as an entrepreneur, a marketer, all the above, right? It goes on, which is experience, right?
It is. It's experience of dealing with issues and challenges, right? And because there's always going to be a new challenge, there's always going to be a new issue, and those issues magnify and they get larger as you grow. But as long as you have your stomach can handle it and your mind can calm down and make rational decisions, depending on this, no matter the scope of the challenge and of the issue, I think that's what's important, and you get experience with that.
And if you're eating a product that removes your migraine, it's even better, right?
I
Prevents
can't
it
use
or
I can't use prevent, but we are a migraine tool in your toolkit. We're a
got
tool
it.
in your migraine management toolkit. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. Well
Yeah.
said. Okay. What would you say are some predictions for the future in not only the companies you work with as a fractional CMO, but I guess this new current business as well, the futures of the industry and how you plan to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I think in marketing, I'm not going to go the AI route because everyone I'm sure is talking about AI, but I'm going to say that for marketing specifically, really good CMOs have to be cross-functional. You have to truly understand how product works, and you have to think like a product lead. You have to think like a sales lead, and you have to think like an executive on the sales team. And then you have to think about, obviously, from the CEO's perspective. I think the head of marketing is a huge challenge. It's a very challenging role, but I think the evolution of it really is cross functional. You need to be able to communicate cross functionally, align goals cross functionally, because there's a lot of blame game that goes on, right? Marketing blames sales for not closing leads. Sales blames marketing for not getting enough leads. Marketing and sales blame product because it's not good enough. Like
Hmm.
there's all this blame game, but if you can, align with the executive team and align with your head of product, head of sales, and think like them, you guys will be in a much better position. So I think, for me, it's not just being kind of focused in the marketing side, in the marketing department, and just having that kind of vertical mentality. It is really going cross functional across different departments.
Love it. I think too that's one thing that piggybacks off of what I do in marketing too, but just as a whole with a business, the foundation of getting a new business concept started, that foundation is so important. And to have the right people in place, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you can move fast, but if the foundation isn't strong enough and your building gets higher and higher, it will crumble. Right
Yeah.
there, and you can't go back and let me remove 17 floors and try and fix the foundation where the garage is at. It's not,
Well, we always
now you're at a
say
loss.
I always say, and that you're kind of building the plane as it's flying, right? You're fixing the plane and building it as it's flying. So, you can't build the foundation too early because you don't know what it's going to be. Things are going to change, right?
Yeah,
Constant movement and change. So it's like you build something that can get you from here to here, but then that is not going to get you from here to here. And so how do you do that? You kind of have to be building as you're flying the plane. And so you do need to be thinking about infrastructure. You do need to be thinking about foundationally, how is this business going to scale? But you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself and put too many resources towards that and not towards the product, solving a problem, your funnels and understanding and foundationally those things. You do need to, kind of focus there. But then as you start to learn and as you start to be able to scale, how do you go back and make sure that your infrastructure is built sound for that scale? And so it is a constant juggle, I have found, and it's retweaking and retooling infrastructure as you're going.
agreed. I think I'm not sure it was John Maxwell or one of the others. He has a book about growing a business, and it had a plane analogy in there as well too, where it said, the pilot is a CEO, the co-pilot is a COO, your left
Mhm.
wing is sales, your right wing is marketing, and everyone on board is your employees, right? And
Yeah,
yeah, you can add more
yeah,
people on, but you may lose altitude, or you may
yeah,
flood everyone on the sales side, and you may veer off. But you
yeah,
have a location you're trying to go to and beyond, right?
yeah,
And you may do a little bit of this all around, but ultimately, if you add a little bit here, but to do that, I have to add a little bit here, or can't take a nap while the plane's going over this area right here,
yeah,
right? Or just leave it
yeah,
up to someone else who hasn't flown a plane before,
yeah,
you
exactly,
know.
exactly.
But yeah, I love it. I love it. One final piece here, and this has been great education, not only for me, but for hopefully for everyone who's watching, listening as well too. Suppose you were given the opportunity to mentor a young entrepreneur, maybe even it's advice you would have given yourself 20 years ago, let's say, potentially, right? And they want to grow a business, they want to start. What words of wisdom would you provide to them and why?
Man, I would say, if you do want to start a business, start it. Like you're going to learn so much when you actually just get in and do it. Even if it's a small business, go sell t-shirts build up a Shopify site and go sell, right? Learn how to sell digitally learn how to make a product, learn how to communicate that product to a customer, learn how to go find that customer, and then you have to learn the back end. You're going to have to learn, the shipping and logistics. You're going to have to learn supply chain. Even if it's a small thing, go start something and do it and get a side hustle, right? I've learned so much from the side hustles that I've done. And even if I go into a situation where I don't fully feel equipped to do it, I learn on the spot. I learn on the fly. I'll go read. I'll go on and search, Google for articles on a specific industry or on a specific challenge I'm having. I think now I feel a lot more comfortable going into different industries and tackling, marketing departments from, different industries. But in the past, I'd start something. I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I would have to learn it on the fly, right? And so I think the key as a young entrepreneur is just go start some things, go do it, go get experience. I actually really do recommend getting a Shopify store and just selling a physical product, because you have to do everything. You have to do everything from the back end, the financials. You have to learn how to make the website. You have to learn how to communicate, appropriately. What is your positioning, your messaging? How are you describing that product? You have to build a product page. All of that stuff is going to teach you something. And I think just doing it is going to give you tremendous experience, more than any business school can give you.
I love it. I love it. It's turning back time for me and hearing just that right here. One of my first was to do phone cases on Shopify, and there was custom socks I did and all those. And would I call it successful? Absolutely not. Did I learn a ton to help me get to where I am today? Without question. But I don't think I needed to have those few failing stepping points before I had a successful Shopify store.
Yep.
To learn what worked, what didn't, to train myself, to educate, all the above, right? It's never going to go perfect in the first shot.
It's not a failure though. It's a learning opportunity, right? And if you you want to make money, sure, no question. You want it to be successful monetarily and financially, but ultimately it's a learning experience. And if you're young in your career, there's compounding effects of growth and of learning, right? If you can learn and do that in between 20 and 25, you are so much further ahead at 25 than most people, right? And now you can step into much more leadership roles at 26, 27, 28 than if you had just, gone in and been a, social media marketer for 5 years, right? I think this is tremendous for people to gain that experience and confidence. It's a confidence builder. You learn so much.
I love it. These are all things I look forward to speak with my future kids about and telling them the experiences I've had and to get their confidence growing and all the above. So
absolutely,
well said on all these answers here. Again, thank you so much for your time. I think this has been a fantastic educational podcast and discussion back and forth. And I certainly learned a lot, as I mentioned before. And again, I'll put the link to below to your LinkedIn for everyone that wants to learn more about you, if they would like to speak with you about fractional CMO efforts. And then, of course, to AMIA, which is the website there is, what is it again?
helloamia.com, HELLOANIA.com.
Beautiful. I'll put all that down below in the description. Jon, again, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking with you sometime in the future.
I love it. Thanks, Joe. I really appreciate it. This was awesome.
All right. Thanks.